guys, welcome to Simply Scuba. Here we have the Mars XR single cylinder backplate and wing setup. So this is it in its battle blue configuration, but these kind of change on an annual basis. So this sort of colorway will only be available for about a year's time, and they continually switch these. But this is a really sort of efficient way of getting into backplate and harness kind of setups. And then if you want to upgrade to twins, then you just kind of change the bladder, and it comes, as you see here, all I've done is I've taken it out of the bag, so it comes pretty much fully assembled. So all you have to do is just kind of customize it to your shape and size and where you want the D-rings. But yeah, it's a really quick and easy way of getting into backplates and harnesses without sort of feeling overwhelmed. It's got everything that you need. It's ready to sort of jump straight into the water. You just need a tank and your regs. And yeah, if you then want to sort of upgrade it and change it, then yeah, you can do that. It's very, very customizable, as with all sort of backplate and harness setups. So this is made for single cylinder setups, as the name suggests, obviously, and it's more for the traveling diver, because all of the sort of metal hardware, it's aluminium, so it's lightweight. This is lighter than quite a lot of the standard recreational BCDs, so traveling with it is really, really easy. So let's take a closer look. So starting up over your left-hand shoulder, we've got a traditional corrugated hose. Now there's no sort of pull dump sort of in this, because it's erring more towards the technical side of things. So that's just a standard sort of corrugated hose. Goes to a pretty K-style inflator, slightly modified, but you can still see the that K design. Big metal button will inflate the BCD. Big metal button on the tip will deflate the BCD, and you've got the oil inflation valve as well. Comes as standard with a low pressure inflator hose, as pretty much every BCD does. But yeah, this is just a standard rubber quick disconnect. Then we move across to the harness itself. So this is a single piece harness. So this is really DIR kind of setups. It's really simple. It's a single piece of webbing that becomes your waistband. It then loops up and it becomes your shoulder straps. Across the back, it becomes your second shoulder strap, and then the rest of the waistbands. But over your shoulders, we've got two pre-bent D-rings, and these are usually color-coded based on the sort of backplate design, because it's battle blue. These are anodized in blue, which is really cool. You can adjust these. These are pre-bent as well, so these are great for shoulder straps, because it lifts that so far away from the shoulder strap, so you can clip off onto that really easily. But with these tri-gliders, you can sort of adjust where that sits really quickly and easily, so it's exactly where you want it to. You've got a little sort of bungee loop here that I'd probably put lower down for my backup torch, but yeah, that's quite a nice sort of fabric bungee, so you don't need to use any inner tube. It kind of comes with those as standard. On your left-hand shoulder strap, very much the same, except you do have this loop of bungee, so that's usually for your inflator, just to keep that in position and stop that sort of roaming around and flapping. So underneath that, we have an aluminium 3mm backplate. So this has got this kind of blue camouflage to it, but the different styles will have different patterns on it. Very, very lightweight, nice and strong. It still has all the attachment points that you can possibly need, and yeah, it's great for travel, because it gives you that rigidity of a backplate, but it's not ridiculously heavy like a stainless steel one. And despite it being metal, because I've dived with something very, very similar to this, just in a rash vest, it's not uncomfortable. Even with these straps, it's still not uncomfortable. You don't really notice it sort of whilst you're in the water, so don't worry about it being sort of hard against your back. Moving down to your waistband, so we've got straight D-rings on your left-hand hip, and also on your right. You can remove the right one if you don't want it, if you want a true kind of DIR setup that only has 3 D-rings on it. But again, these are sort of anodized blue, so they're just cool, really, to be honest. That comes across to a waistband buckle. Again, that's blue. This one feels, it's still aluminium, so it's nice and light. It just works like a traditional sort of weight belt quick release. And yeah, again, bright blue. And you've got lots of excess, so no matter what sort of size you are or kind of what you're wearing underneath it, you've got plenty of adjustment, just cut off any excess that you're not going to be using. You also have a crotch strap, and this is made from much softer material because going between your legs, so that stays nice and sort of comfortable. You can adjust that. That attaches to the bottom of the back plate, and then it loops up and goes over your waistband. Again, we've got a D-ring, a blue D-ring on the front, so that's for your DPV, and then you have one just in the small of your back, just around your butt, and that's for any sort of spools or whatever that you need to store behind you. Turning around, looking at the wing. So the wing has 16 kilos, which is about 35 pounds of lift. So that's plenty for a single cylinder, even up to like a 15 or something. And if you've got your weighting and your buoyancy down right, you can have stage cylinders as well. Nice and streamlined. You can see we've still got this sort of blue camouflage pattern continuing the theme going along. So that's very different and just a bit of fun, to be honest. Donut shape just means that you get a nice sort of airflow all the way around, and you get a decent trim as well, because it's quite tight up around the top, around the shoulders. Most of the actual volume is down towards your hips, so that's going to hold you in a better sort of horizontal position in the water. And when you've got a tank in position, it kind of wraps around the cylinder and sort of stops it from twisting and turning. But also we have two metal cam bands, and these are, again, they're anodized blue. And because you've got two of them, they're clamping it against the cylinder. It just means that you don't really need a single tank adapter that's going to hold it in position. But if I actually deflate it quickly, you might be able to see that down here we actually have a kind of makeshift single tank adapter. So this is just two chunky sections of kind of tubing, and that's attached to the wing, so that when the cylinder is clamped in position, it just acts as a bit of a single tank adapter. It's a lot lighter, and you don't need a separate piece of metal clamping onto it. You've got the two different cam bands as well, holding the cylinder in position. Now the wing itself, this has an external shell and then an internal bladder. So you can access that through this zipper that goes all the way around on the inside. So that way, if you do get a puncture, you can sort of swap it out. You can use a puncture repair kit sometimes to repair a torn or sort of punctured bladder. So it's quite good in the long run. Instead of having to sort of write off the entire BCD because you get a puncture, you can just swap out a single piece. So all in all, yeah, this is the way that I dive with a sort of backplate and wing. Even on sort of single cylinder holidays, yeah, I'll travel with an aluminium backplate and a sort of solo piece harness. Similar kind of sized wing, because you don't need that much buoyancy when you're just doing sort of recreational diving. The only thing that I'd probably change about this is the actual inflator. I prefer a slightly different style, but I'd be perfectly fine with this, to be honest. There's nothing wrong with it. I just like a slightly different style. But other than that, it's a really great way to get into backplate and harness setups without having to buy the separate bits and assemble it yourself, because that can feel a little bit daunting when you first kind of getting into that kind of technical sort of range of dive equipment. So this is definitely a great option for you. This is the Mares XR single cylinder set. Thanks for watching and safe diving. We are an online dive store serving the UK and the world for all your diving equipment needs. So why not visit us at simplyscuba.com or click the box on your screen.